Hi, my name is Alessandro Cangelosi, and that's a new tutorial coming from cgcookie.com for Max Cookie. This time we'll start again to talk about particles inside 3ds Max, and we'll see how to use particle flow in 3ds Max 2010 to create some assembly and creation of objects based on particles. So we'll try to create a mesh using particles, and then we'll try to disassemble this mesh in thousands of sub-mesh using again the particles. This kind of effects can be really useful when you try to create animated logos, or for example another test can be a creature created by sand or some other kind of elements. So let's start to create the basic setup. So we can create a plane. Let's remove the grid using the G key on the keyboard, and let's go in the modify panel, and we can create a panel 3 meters, so 300 centimeters by 3 meters, and we'll use this plane as our floor, and the particles will come from this floor. So let's move forward and let's create a particle flow to create the first step. So we have the particle flow, and let's go in the particle view. Let's scale it just a little bit. Let's change the position icon with a position objects, because we'd like to emit the particles coming from the plane. So position objects and drag and drop over the position icon. Now we can select the position icon, the position objects node, click over add, and select the plane. Let's close just a second. So you see that the particles are emitted by the plane. Let's go back in the particle view, and let's go inside the bird event, and we like that the particles will come, but before we have to change the animation length. Let's use for the moment 1000 frames, and let's say that we have particles coming for 500 frames, and we have 2000 particles, and we remove the speed, so we can click over the icon and we have no speed. Let's check the scene, and you see that we see all the particles coming. Now we can go inside the material editor, and I'd like to have the particles just in some area. So let's select the mesh. We can add assign this material to the mesh. Let's go in the diffuse, and let's select the gradient ramp. Okay, and we can set the map visible inside the viewport. Let's set the gradient type to radial, and we can change this one. No, it's okay, it's black, so we have another flag there, black. So we have no particles there, and then we have the particles all over there, and we can add also some kind of noise. Let's use the fractal one. Okay, so we have the particles over there. Let's remove the map in the viewport, and inside the particle view we have to go inside the position objects, and down there we have the density, and we set the density by material, and let's use the grayscale. So where the map is white we have more particles, and where the map is black we have no particles. Let's check it, and as you can see we have the particles just where we have the map with a bright area. Let's save to be sure. the scene in the right folder. Okay, October, and we have tooth number 1, 3ds max underscore tooth oct 1. Okay. Obviously, you can do the same thing on other version of 3ds Max, so in the 2011 and also in 2009. Now I'd like that the particles start to move, so maybe it's better to have the particles all over the mesh at the beginning, so we can say emit start 0 and emit stop 0. So at the beginning we have all the particles just over the plane. Let's change 2 dots, so we have just some points. And if we like to have the particles moving towards a mesh or a point, we have to use the an event. Let's search for it. Okay, and we have to find the find target. Okay, and we can set the find target there, and you see that we have an icon there. And let's move the out node there. Let's select the find target, and you see that there we have the target, and we have the target set to icon, but we can use also mesh objects. So if we use the icon, you can see that the particles are really fast and will move to this icon, but we can change it, and we can change, for example, the speed. We can set it to 330, so it's we have a slower movement for the particles. And we can select this one and we can move it, so you see that the particles will move up. Then we can go back there and we can select a variation for the speed, so let's use 10 centimeters, so the particles will move with a different speed. And we can set an easy in 100%, so you see it will be a little bit slower at the beginning, and then we have the particles stay over the icon. Okay, so for the moment this can be a good way to have the effects I'd like to have. And you can imagine that if we use the 500 for the stop, we'll continue to see particles going over the sphere, the icon, and it can be quite a little bit interesting as effects. So we have to say something to the particles when they arrive there, and we can say, for example, that later we like that these particles will create another mesh. So for example, I can create a teapot there. We can go back inside the particle flow. Okay, and we can say to start that the particles that find the icon can change the colors and the shape. And now we can add another find target there. We can change from icon to mesh objects, and we can add the teapot. Then let's select the teapot, and we say objects display as box, and then let's see, the particles go there, and you see that as soon as they reach and find the icon, they go with a really high speed through the teapot. So we have to start changing the speed. Let's use again 30 and 10 for the variation. So you see that particles are right there and go there to find the teapot. We can change again to have the easy hint to 100%. Let's see how it works. They find this target and then they go to form the teapot. Let's go there and let's move just a little bit. Maybe we can move this one and there this one. So let's check it. So we can check again how it works, and we see the particles there. And let's see if we can change just a little bit the acceleration. We can make it something like 30, so it will be just a little bit slower. We are just playing to understand how it works. Okay, so you see, now we can change a little bit the shape. So if we go inside the second one, find target, and we move it there, and we say just to use a display when they reach the teapot, you see that we can say, for example, geometry, and you see that we are forming the teapot by the cubes. So we can change and use another shape, and for the shape, let's go to search the shape mark, and you can see that the shape mark doesn't change anything actually. So we have to say which mesh is the mesh for the contact with the particles. So we have to click over the contact objects, select the teapot, then we can go there, set it, and you see that something is happening. Let's we have just a little bit of problem with the zoom, and let's scale it, and you see that we are creating some patch, something like some face, and that's the contact point, the contact area between the particles and the teapot. I'm going to say also to use 7 and 7, so you see it's bigger, and we can create this one, and it will be really useful because you can use, for example, some sprite over the teapot, over this mesh, to create a custom map to create the teapot visibility. And you see we have the possibility, for example, to change the distortion based on the impact angle, and we can say to use not a rectangle but to use the intersection with the mesh. So we are creating the mesh. Let's use more frames, something like 2000. Okay, let's continue to see it, and you see that we are forming the teapot surface, and at the end we can change this one with a real one in animation, so it will be really useful. And now I'm using the continuous update, so you see that it is taking some time. Let's wait for it. It is a slower option, but the result can be better than the previous one. Let's try maybe to stop it because it is trying to create all the 1000 frames. Let's go back there, let's set it to 1. Okay, and you see that the mesh will be more and more precise. So the result is slower, but it is really interesting because you can create, I can change also the box height, and we can also use multiple elements. And you see that we are creating the teapot surface just using the particles. So it's really interesting. Let's try to use little pieces. So maybe 4 centimeters by 4 centimeters. And you see that maybe it's better. And we can use also a lower scale to create it to be faster. So let's maybe set to off this event for the moment, and let's start again. So we need maybe to have more sand, so let's select this one. Let's say that the upper limit is maybe 10 millions. We'd like to see 100% in viewport, and we can say that the total amount of particles will be 20,000. So you see we have a lot of particles there. Let's try with maybe again another test. We can say, for example, 2000, and then we can say to the second find target that must continue to use the dots and must continue to be blue, maybe a dark blue. So let's check it. As we continue to have a blue. Okay, and let's go there, and let's say that this one has spawn effects. Okay, let's say we have 3 rate per second, and you see that we have a lot of particles. So we have to change the speed, let's say 65, 25% of variation, and let's check it. And I like to have less speed, 50, maybe 35. So we have particles that go away and create, you see, this kind of effects. So it will be really useful to have a really sandy effects, but you have to imagine that now we have a lot of particles, and it will be really complex than trying to use the shape mark with all these particles, but you can use the spawn to create some interesting effects. Let's save it. Okay, let's go to 0, and let's set to off this one, and we can see that the same thing can be done there. And let's check it. Let's change to by seconds. I made a mistake. Let's stop it. Okay, let's go to 0. Let's set to 1. Let's say 2. You see it's a more dusty effects. It is slower, but it is a dusty effects, and we can say that we have 50% of speed, 25, and if we use 0 divergence, you see it seems like a dusty coming inside. Let's try to use maybe 1. It will be just a little bit faster, or maybe we can try to use 2 offsprings, 3 offsprings, a variation of 35% and 4 offsprings. So let's test it, and you see it seems like Dusty creating this sphere, and then he will create the other one. But let's stop it because it's really slow. So let's go back to 2, and let's set to 1. Okay, now it's a little bit faster. Let's stop it. But maybe the best way is to close this one again and use more particles at the beginning, so it will be faster to, oh sorry, we have to set 1, will be faster to be used. You see that maybe it seems just a little bit better when you use the spawn, but we can think about to add a wind, and we can select again the particle flow source, open it, and add a force there. We select by list the wind, and you see that the particles are flying away. But then we can change this one, and we say speed 0, the strength, and we can add the turbulence. Let's try to have maybe 1 and 3 for the frequency, and 0.001 for the turbulence. And now we can try to change it just a little bit. It's too much. We are trying to find the best configuration, so let's select again the particles. We have it, but again it became too slow. So you can add it just to make some tests to create some different kind of effects, but for our purpose it will be faster to use just 20,000 particles, and you see the particles will create the sphere, and then from the sphere we can create the teapot. And that's all. So let's stop it. Okay, let's go to 0, let's set to 1, and let's save the scene. Okay, one interesting thing is that we can change the shape. So we can say that at the beginning, let's say that the particles will start maybe at frame -5. So we have this kind of particles, and we can say that we like to use a sphere, little sphere, like this one, with a variation of 45% or maybe more. So we have different kind of sphere, you see. The sphere will arrive there, and when they create this one, we can change the shape, and maybe we can do something really strange. So let's go to the shape, let's set shape there, and we'll use the geometry, and let's use something strange like maybe let's see something strange. Let's try with the earth. So really strange stuffs, and you see that we are using this one. We can say that This earth will be 3 centimeters with a variation of 45%. And you see that. Obviously, you can use also the shape instance, so you can use some custom mesh, and the mesh can be also animated. So you can create something like what I can say, scarabs that go there, and then they became flying maybe birds or something like that, and then they create maybe bats, for example, and then they create the Batman logo, and then they fly away again. So you see that we have the earth, and then we can say to use also the event tree. Maybe we can set just for test purpose. We can remove the continuous objects, and we can see what happened. So we have the sphere. They go there and became earth, and when the earth hit the tipped surface, they became the teapot. So you see that you can create really complex effects using this way, and you can achieve really complex particle setup. Let's stop it. Okay, let's close there, and let's set 1, and let's save. Now let's say that we'd like to do something after a while. We have the tippet created, so let's set the end to 3000, and let's add an age test there. Let's move this one. So actually that's our graph, and we say that after maybe 75 frames with a variation of 35, we'd like to move the particles away. So we'd like to go away from this area. So we can use again a find target. Okay, and it's not important where the particles will go. And let's say that these particles became let's see what we have for the shape. Okay, and we have maybe something interesting, maybe something strange, the nodes, let's say 5 centimeters with a variation of 4 to 5 centimeters, and we say that we'd like to see the geometry. So let's say that the speed will be 30 with a 10 variation, and we like to use an icon. Let's move this one, define target number 3, and we like to move this one out of the screen, so I move it there. Let's go back there and let's see what happened. We have the sphere, and then the earth, and then we have to change the life for the particles. So let's go there back, and let's say after let's say maybe 300. So we have this one, but I imagine that okay, maybe we have the life not changing. So we have to say which frame, because the particles are always the same. So we have to say when we like that the particles go away. So let's say at 2000 with maybe 150, and let's use less particles to be faster to check it. And let's again set to on the particles. Let's check it. We have the sphere, then the earth, and then we are forming the teapot mesh. This is just a little bit slow, but not so bad. And we can move, and we have the teapot near to be ready. And we are coming to the 200, and you see that the particles are going away using the nodes shape. And you see it's just a little bit slow to be checking, but we have a lot of particles. We can try maybe with less particles to be faster.